How are you today?
I'm good. Well, it's Easter. It's an Easter holiday, so everybody's just chilling. It's been very chilled.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Of course, it is. It is indeed a good Friday. What does a chill day look like for you?
Long walk on the beach, gin and tonic.
Oh, that's
Uh,
good to hear.
yeah.
Aside from that, though, I mean, cool that you're having a chill day and that you can take advantage of that. What sort of things are keeping you busy right now? And is it a good kind of busy?
It is. It is. So I'm starting to DJ a little bit again. I used to DJ a lot
Okay.
many years ago. Now I've taken an interest in that and back in the club scene and electronic music. So that's been keeping me busy. I
Mm.
also practice yoga, so a ton of yoga, and I have a small yoga business where I teach yoga. So that's been keeping me busy, and as well as painting. I like painting.
Fair to say, a lot of hobbies, a lot of things you enjoy. You always feel like you're doing something.
Yeah, I'm always doing something, a million projects on the go, always.
Do you recognize that though? Like as a thing, like where like you almost can't sit still. So like even like a day like today, you say you're kind of chilling out, but are you automatically thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna do that tomorrow and so on? Are you always thinking about what the next project might be?
I think sometimes, but I think that, walking and doing the yoga really helps out with that a lot. So I
Of
do get
course.
to zone in on a little meditation time. But even during the walks, I'm constantly processing things as well. But I think as a creative, I think maybe, maybe it's a creative problem because you're always wanting to make something new and you get these new ideas and the inspiration. Sometimes you can't hold yourself back. It's just,
Well, yeah, it's
yeah,
that, isn't it? Just if it strikes, it hits you. It is what it is.
yeah.
Do you have a particular environment, a time, or a thing where someone's inspiration hits you more than any other?
I think when I'm doing the walks
Mm.
or like during a meditation or something like that, it really hits me. Um, and then I feel this urge to immediately get up out of meditation or run back home from the walk and just create. But yeah, definitely that. But my day is mostly regimented during the week, very scheduled, just so that I can keep a bit of balance and get everything done that I need to.
Of course, because at the same time, of course, you're creating music as well. And in fact, you're in this interesting release period, pre-release period. We are only a few weeks away from your debut full-length album, her Chrysalis, being released out May 2nd via Mongrel Records. Um, which is such obviously we haven't even talked about it. We've talked about so many different things, and we're not talking about that massive thing that you're working on right now. Your head, where is it at right now with that?
Obviously, I'm really excited about that. I mean, it took me about 3 years of to make in total, so it's so much work, and just and then it gets released in the shortest space of time, and you're so hopeful about how you want it to be received,
Hmm.
and yeah, just like reaching enough people that it can actually touch and inspire and move
Yeah.
some.
So
And
are
that's
you
where
at
Mongrel Records, yeah, that's where Mongrel Records is doing their thing and they're making it really, it feels so easy to me because I have previously tried to, do a release of like some kind of music and it was actually really difficult, but Mongrel has really gone out there and made the contacts and really put in so much effort. So I'm definitely appreciative of them. So,
how it
and
makes
yeah,
all the difference, doesn't it?
it really does. It really does. They're great people as well. So,
Well,
um,
we're talking because of that connection. I know Mongrel Records, I know Warren, and we're talking because of that exact reason. He reached out to me, sent me your album. I've listened to it, experienced it, the singles, and now we're getting to talk about it. So would that exist if you were trying to self-release it? Probably not.
probably not at all. Probably not at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, they actually came on to me first So they discovered me on the internet, and then they they were like, "This is cool. Let's do something," And now they have, and I'm really grateful because this is a great conversation as well. It's fun and stimulating creatively to actually talk about, the arts and music and just creativity in general. So,
Well, we are going to dig a lot more into that album, but particularly sticking to this particular point in time. So, like today, Friday, the 18th of April, we are just a few weeks away from May 2nd. This can still be a very busy period of time, even with assistants and other people trying to help you promote it. Is there anything, one specific thing that's kind of sticking to the album, keeping you busy about that?
um, not really, not
Mm,
really, because I'm already starting on new ideas. As you were
right.
speaking about earlier, about as a creative, you just can't help but engage in new things. So
Mm,
I have been thinking about a new album already, which
yeah.
is crazy, which is crazy. But I guess that's just how it is as a musician. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful. I'm really hopeful that the album gets some reach.
Mm,
It is a post-rock album, which is a bit of a niche genre, especially in SA. So I don't
mm,
know if it's actually something that's broadly listened to in South Africa, as much as, like a place like Germany would be very popular in Germany, or
mm.
places like that. But so I'm really excited to see where it goes and where it's mostly enjoyed and appreciated. Obviously, I'm hoping it will be my own country, because I really have a fondness for growing the music culture here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
Yeah,
it'll be
of
interesting.
course. Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, the South African scene, it's incredible, but you're right. It's not necessarily one when I think of, oh, well, where do I know my post-rock and post-metal from? I don't necessarily think of South Africa, so to speak. You're right. You do think of Europe and so on, and even America to some degree. But we have had a taste already with Amas Veritas. The response to that so far, how have you found that? Are you pleased with the general response?
I mean, I've been watching the YouTube,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty happy with the response to that and the growth on the video that was released. And that took a lot of work and was really fun. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the growth so far, like time-wise, considering
Hmm.
I think it was released on the 4th. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Glad to hear. I'm glad. I'm glad as well. I've only seen positive words about it too, and I've heard the track, and I thought it was fabulous. But I heard the full album. The album is fabulous. In fact, I want to say now it is absolutely spectacular. I can't wait for you to read my review of it. It is written. It's just not published yet because 2nd of May feels too early. But trust me, it is a wonderful, wonderful record from my perspective, and I think it says a lot about you as an artist as well. But that's from my perspective. From your perspective, what do you think this record says about you?
Um, I don't know. I would say I don't want to say the word deep because it sounds
Hmm.
uh, like fake.
Hmm, I know what you
But
mean.
yeah, I would say that people can hear that a lot of work went into it. Um, I think that that is something I did want to portray because a lot of work obviously did go into it.
Mhm.
Um, Ethereal was the main word that I was going for, because when I wrote it I was in a very like spacey space. So
Hmm.
I was doing a lot of meditation. I wanted everything to be really ritualistic, so I would light candles when I was trying to write, and like use a smudge stick and just clear the space, and I wanted it to be very not medicinal for the listener,
Hmm.
like cathartic. So nice build-ups and nice release, just so that you can find a meditative space within the music as well. That's what I was really wanting to happen.
What a fabulous summation of it. I mean, truly, I completely understand where you're coming from. I kind of worded it in part of the review talking about how, because listen, everybody consumes music in unique ways these days. There's an argument to say that majority are consuming it in a little more rushed way. Perhaps you're walking down the street, you're going somewhere, it's on headphones, you're listening to a track or two. I see this album as sit in a dark room, draw the curtains, relax, lean back, close your eyes,
Yeah.
that kind of experience. Relax to it and experience it that way. But of course, that's not always possible. So it's not that it's unlistenable in another way. It's just perhaps if there is an opportunity to hear it that way, I think that would be cool.
I think obviously everybody's gonna listen to it from their perspective as well. So,
Hmm.
like, but when I was writing, I remember I used to listen to a lot of post rock when I was taking a bath, and like the sounds would just reverberate off the walls of the bathroom and like would just give this huge hall effect. And so I
Mm.
started listening to a lot of while I was, writing and stuff, and then listening back into the music to see where it was going. I would listen to it in the same space. And yeah, that is how I like kind of developed and grew with the creation of it as well.
How clear though was that vision at the start? So, we got to go back, as you said, 3 years to the earliest point when you started writing this album. You have this, I guess, this vibe, this feel of how you want it to be. But how does that become a vision, and what is the direction you go in?
Well, initially I wanted it to be a vocal album. I was going to do something with vocals, but
Hmm.
I had discovered all these artists that really, really inspired me, like Russian Circles, and and even the Cult of Luna actually was inspiration on the album, and Amun Ra, and those kind of very ethereal sounding bands. And then when I began writing, the album kind of just went in that direction, and I fell in love with the instrumentation. And I used a lot of experimental techniques like bowing with the guitar and things like that. And like I really fell, and an ebow. I tried an ebow out as well. And I really fell in love with those techniques. And after I built, some of the songs, they were so big instrumentally that I couldn't really just layer vocals on anymore. It would
Right.
kind of ruin and drown out all the sounds of the instruments, and I really didn't want to lose those instruments. So I left it as is. And yeah, it was great. I love it.
That's incredible. It almost sounds like you weren't in control to a degree of the instrumental side of things. It was just flowing so simply and so naturally. Did you feel in
Yeah.
control? Did you feel like you had a measure on what you were doing?
Uh, to a degree, like I would know what sounds I was going for, and I would almost get there, and then the
Hmm.
rest would be just taken over by, you know, improvisation and stuff like that. So yeah, to a degree, there was a tiny bit of control, but not really.
What about from a writing perspective? You talked about experimentation. Well, how experimental did that get? Did you find, because you're basing it within the world of post rock, and that has a style and sound to a degree, particularly if you're looking at inspiration, some of the bands you named. But experimentation is still a key part of post. You can do pretty much anything. Did you ever get to a point
Yeah.
where you had to rein yourself in and be like, you know what, this is a little bit too weird, even for what I want to
Yeah, definitely.
do?
I did a lot of sample recording of, I wanted to use a lot of nature sounds and things in my environment because I had just moved into this 150-year-old house, and I was now going to record. And it was, yeah. And a lot of the samples I used, I really began like, drilling holes in weird things like plastic and trying to record that. And I was like, no, now it's getting a little bit too far out from where I want to go musically. I was trying to keep it a little bit more natural. And I also used a lot of electronic techniques like electronic bass and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it was fun. But there was definitely time where it was sounding very abstract and very. There were a lot of songs that actually didn't even make it onto the album. So I recorded a ton, and a
Right.
lot of stuff was way too abstract to make it on.
Who were you? Were you able to make a lot of these sort of cut decisions? Times when you're thinking, okay, this is too abstract, too weird, or this song doesn't belong. Were you able to make clear decisions for yourself, or did you have people who were you bouncing ideas off?
I didn't actually. I'd made all those kind of decisions myself. It was only when it came down to the mixing process,
Hmm.
did I actually start involving people and, get them to listen and hear you
There
know,
they think.
like help out a little bit with the mixing. But other than that, no, all those big decisions were made myself because I had a vision of, a journey. I wanted the album to be a journey, a story. So each and every song had its place and in its order. And if
So
it
you
didn't fit in that order, if it didn't sound right in if it didn't connect all together, it was out.
So you are able, you feel very comfortable, and comfortable being able to tell yourself, oh, this has to stop here. This song, while you've got these extra items or things that could make it a bit more longer, a little bit more experimental, a little more interesting, and able to tell yourself to stop.
I mean, it took about a year,
Okay.
after after I had finished, it took about a year of like, mixing and taking things out and turning things around and switching orders. And so, yeah, it was about a year of mixing and mastering and getting all of that done.
Well, you said yourself it's an incredibly lengthy period of time, but the point is that all that effort has come to this, and that's the positive of it. Yeah, it can take a long time, and no doubt an incredible amount of work. Of course, you're
Yeah.
telling us, but the end result speaks for itself. But what's quite interesting, of course, as well, is you have an incredible musical background, just not just within post rock, but extensive, wide,
Yeah.
unique. Um, that I'd imagine, obviously, you took into the creation of this album as well. But from two perspectives, basically, I'd like to look at this, a good and a bad perspective. What one particular thing from your musical background that was good did you take into the writing for this album?
I would say the experimental part. So,
Hmm.
having come from like techno and electronic music, it was
Hmm.
easier to experiment because you really do experiment there anywhere. And there's often, use of guitars in electronic music. So actually switching around from electronic music and then into the post rock. Um, yeah, it was kind of an easy transition, but yeah, experimentation, and I used a lot of
Hmm.
bass
Hmm.
sounds because I absolutely loved bass sounds from electronic music. So I didn't use any natural guitar bass in the post rock album. Actually, I used well, obviously there were the low end sounds from just the natural, low strings on the guitar, which I
Hmm.
used, and then would process and like enhance in that way. But I used a lot of electronic bass and yeah, those growls and the processing and stuff was just easy and wonderful to use.
Well, as you said, the crossover is insane. The Venn diagram crosses over. It's very believable that the EDM, electronic music, and now that can switch and flow into post rock
Yeah.
as well, particularly from
Yeah.
the more experimental side of things. But on that front as well, again, looking at your overall musical background, what about something that necessarily didn't work? Not so much as a negative or a bad thing, but just something maybe from your background that you initially thought could benefit you for writing a post rock album, but maybe didn't.
Hmm. That's a difficult question. I guess. I mean, I didn't actually use a lot of keys in
Hmm.
the post rock in the album. I didn't use a lot of the keyboard or anything like that, which I would generally use in the electronic music. And I
Yeah.
did. try, and it didn't really resonate having keys in there for some reason. It was all
Hmm.
about the guitars. And yeah, it was just mainly it was just about the guitars and the luscious walls of guitars.
It's
So
fascinating, isn't it? Because not only obviously Q is such a major part, obviously, to do with EDM, but obviously within post as well, it can be such a major influencing factor depending upon, the style and direction you go in.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, it
maybe the
didn't
next
work for
time.
me on the album.
When you reflect on the writing phase of this album, what was particularly fun for you?
I would say the ebo and the actual bowing itself
Hmm.
it was obviously the first time I was experimenting with that technique, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a bit difficult in you've got to get the hang of the bow, but I mean that was one piece of gear that I absolutely loved, and I used it
Yeah.
a lot in the album and a lot.
You think you've become more experienced at it now?
Yeah, I think so.
That's fabulous, isn't it? You're an artist, you're creative. We've discussed it already. You're constantly learning and growing every day, learning and enjoying new things. So elements like this, it's one of the biggest benefits of creating music, right? That you are learning and growing every day too.
I actually you did a lot of visual while I was writing the album, I did a lot of visual art experimentation as well. So I did a lot of photography, and
Hmm.
I would set up these black, like a black cloth, and do a lot of weird abstract photography, and a couple of paintings and a short video, but and that was really cool. And I felt like it kind of went with the music at the time because it was very ritualistic. Like I experimented with rope tying, shibari, and things like that. So it was very visual at the same time.
So more than just a listening experience, what have you got any ideas or sort of plans maybe to turn it into over time, potentially even in future releases, to turn into more of a bigger multimedia project?
You what? Yeah, I think
Like,
about it all the time. I love,
okay.
I Uh, I love visual incorporating visual stuff into the music. I think as an artist, I'm a dancer as well, so I do aerial acrobatics. So I dance with those silks, and yeah, I definitely because you listen to music when you dance as well. It's part of the experience. So I love doing video. I love doing the on this album, and I love doing Amas Veritas video. It was fun. I felt like a warrior on that mountain, with my blazing sword of fire. And it was really cool.
What what limits your imagination? I mean, is it as simple as money and time?
Yes, it is that simple. It is totally that simple. Resources
Hmm.
are, yeah. I do great. I always think I do great things with money. Uh, the more you have, the more resources you have, the bigger your ideas. And I wonder if you grow, with the resources, your ideas just grow beyond that anyway. So, so are we ever satisfied? Is the question.
That is I think you're absolutely right there. More money, more money potential could open more doors, but you're right. There may be no limit to what you're able to do then, and that just creates more demand, and also potentially reaching a point where I don't know, your creativity gets stifled on the opposite end because you've got so much funds and able to do whatever you want that you can't
You have
like
too many,
work.
you don't have any ideas that really, really want to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, like you have like the idea. I'm always fascinated, as we're a horror movie website, for example, and because of that, we watch a lot of very low budget, no budget movies where people who don't have money have had to come up with creative ways to create a film, and it can be an absolute disaster, as you know, but it also can be fascinating and enjoyable to see someone with a handful
Exactly.
of dollars doing something as strong as I don't know Disney are doing with Marvel movies and so on.
I think that's why we lean towards the abstract, you know.
Mm.
We can say the lower the budget, the more abstract the project can get because there you go. You use your creativity. Your creativity is your resource. It is your
Yep.
budget. So, and that, yeah, there's a really good horror filmmaker down here called Ryan Kruger.
Mm.
Um, he's excellent, and I mean, a lot of his stuff it almost looks low budget, but because of the way he creatively directs the actual film, it's not low budget. It looks abstract and niche and interesting. So I think,
Okay.
yeah, how you use your resources is also like a really prominent topic.
I was quickly, I was like, the names kind of sounds familiar, and you're right. He recently did the South African reimagining of Street Trash.
Yes, he
So,
did. Yeah.
and if you want to see creativity, it's in that film.
Yeah, he's excellent.
Okay, let's go back to you specifically. Recording though, from that perspective, what was particularly fun for that side of things for you?
Well, I really enjoyed gathering the things that I needed.
Mm.
Like the e-bar and the bow, and you go out and you look for inspiring things, like actually looking for the sounds that I wanted to record, like my feet walking on the sand and things like that.
Mm.
I've got a little Zoom H1 recorder. And that was really, really fun. Gathering the sounds and the samples to start creating was really, really fun for me. And conceptualizing. Conceptualizing is always great. So picking the things you like out of other people's music, guitar sounds or drum sounds or things like that, and getting yourself excited about incorporating and or using those kinds of styles and sounds in what you're creating. I think that was one of my favorite parts. Um,
Such
yeah.
so much work to come from that point, though. I'd imagine you faced a ton of challenges. Is there any, when you look back at that period, recording period, any significant challenges that immediately jump out at you that you can tell us about?
Well, I actually got robbed during the process, and the studio
What?
got robbed. Luckily, it was only towards the end, but they did take everything, which was absolutely devastating to me,
Mm.
and it really put a dent in the process. But it was towards the end, so I had already finished the main recordings. So
Mm.
I had done all the legwork already by the time that had happened, and it was just the finishing off and the finishing touches that really needed to be incorporated. But other than that, it was, finding the time because it takes a lot of time. So, and then stressing out, sometimes you don't get into the studio for a couple of days and you start stressing yourself out because you feel like, how am I going to get back into that song that I was creating and
Mm.
be have that same sense of inspiration as before. So that was also a little bit challenging. But other than that, I felt like, with ritual helped. Ritual helped with the creation process because I made it really special. And when you feel like it's special, it becomes special.
So
Easier.
overall when you reflect on it, it is predominantly even with all the hard work that went into it, it's still a positive memory feelings that you get about the period.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely. I'm really proud of it. I know how much work went into it, so I'm really proud of it. And when it was
I'm
finished, I kind of cried, I cried just the cries of relief. Like, wow, it's finally over because, taking on that pressure for all that time and then you finally have what you worked for. It's just like an amazing feeling. So,
it's indescribable almost to a degree, isn't it?
yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Because it affects everybody different. I am sorry to hear about the robbery. That does suck. It really, really does. No other words can really sum that up. But I am glad it didn't affect you too badly, aside from the invasion of obviously the invasive period, sort of behavior by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward to sort of listeners like what the general feel when the album is out as time goes by and people hear it and spend time with it as well because you can listen to this album once and sum up it up, but I think it's one of those that over time and many listens you find and
Yeah.
uncover new layers. I think listeners overall are going to love the record. Fans of post rock are going to love the record across the world, but that's what I think. Do you have? What do you hope? Sorry, what do you hope listeners take away from the record?
Um, I would say enjoyment, but I think that that's
Well,
everybody would say that. It's just enjoyment.
mm,
Um, just to enjoy the album. I hope it brings you a sense of peace if you're stressed out or, worried about something, because that's kind of what post-rock, does for me. So
100%.
I hope it's the same for someone else.
100%. What about success, though? Because success, of course, is measured in unique ways these days. And certainly each individual person will have their own view of success, particularly from an artist perspective. From your perspective, then, what would success for the album look like?
Well, I mean, this is a success for me, having an interview and to chat about the music. So I figure just, chatting about the music and having good connections with people and just growing like that, growing in the post-rock community, maybe chatting to other post-rock artists about what they think about the album would be really cool. And yeah, maybe some radio plays and just connecting with listeners and people and making friends within the post-rock community.
Cool. That's fair expectations, I think. I think it really is. Nobody can predict, of course, anything, but it just I don't know, I just get the vibe, I get the feel that this has got the potential to spread further around the world, because that's what we want. Because of course the scene in South
Yeah.
Africa, whilst post-rock may not be big, but the scene, the metal scene in general, the rock scene in South Africa is unique, varied, but maybe doesn't get the attention it deserves compared to other
No.
countries. So the hope and fingers crossed that that spreads a little wider. Well, that's all we can hope for, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
think South African music, it is a little bit of a smaller listening um community, but yeah, especially post rock. I mean, I think the only other band that I've heard that's kind of does a post rock thing is Oh God, and they're called themselves progressive rock band, but
mm,
to me they sound post rock. So when I discovered them, I thought they were post rock. I didn't even know they were South African, and I was like, "This is great. These guys are amazing." And then I found out they were South African, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." Um, yeah, I felt
John,
really inspired by them.
oh, really? Okay, so they inspired you too.
Yeah, definitely. There's that post rock. It is. It's just called post rock radio on YouTube. I used to tune in there a lot and listen to a lot of their mixes and stuff, and you
Okay.
know, just dance around the house, cook, and they popped up on there, and I was like, okay, cool. These guys are sound great. So I Googled them, and I was like, wow, they're South African. That's amazing.
Small world, which is crazy because South Africa's not a small country, but there you go. Have you heard of
Yeah.
what we're talking post rock? Have you heard of We Lost the Sea?
We Lost the Sea sounds familiar. Yes,
Yes, yeah,
I
because
think yes.
I would imagine it's played next. That's I think modern day. That's like one of my favorite post rock instrumental bands. So like
Okay,
yeah. So they're well worth a check
great.
out, and they
They're
they have a
great.
new yeah they have a new album out this year, I think, as well. So there's that. But we'll turn to you. Got one more question for you before we wrap this up, and it's really kind of looking at the bigger picture, perhaps for the rest of this year, but also into 2026. Yeah, well, 2026 next year. What's a good God? What's a realistic goal you would like to achieve, perhaps before the end of the year or early next year?
Wow. Well, I'm busy working on some electronic stuff at the moment as
Hmm.
well. So some techno. I'd hope to release like a techno EP.
Okay.
If I do start working on a post-rock, it will be obviously be an album. I don't think you like post-rock can come in an EP. Maybe they do.
Hmm. I don't know what happens much, but maybe you could be the first.
But yeah, if I have started conceptualizing another post-rock album,
Okay.
so that might be in the works. But that would take a little bit longer. But a techno EP I can probably do towards before the end of the year.
Have you thought about and considered what it might be like, future time gone by, to take Shuggah, this post-rock sound, out live?
I thought about it. I was actually planning on doing it before I got robbed. Um, and it actually took me quite a long time to recover from that
Of course.
financially and with the gear and all of that. By the time I did have some gear back, I was, a bit tired and not very interested in trying to go live. So I didn't really learn the songs and things like that. But I think maybe on the next album, I'll definitely consider going live. I did kind of start planning what kind of gear I would use and things like that, and I did kind of start setting up a live performance thing, so I know that I can do it, and yeah, I definitely might. It is something that's tourable. Um,
Shall
the
see then.
gear that I was thinking about was something that's tourable and easily manageable. So yeah, minimal pedals and things like that. Very, very small, for a solo
Yeah.
artist.
Well,
I also
fingers
thought about,
crossed.
I
Yeah.
did also think about putting a band together
Mm.
at some stage as well. That was really interesting for me, and I did find a drummer who was pretty interested in the music and joining me and creating something really, really cool. But then after the robbery, that also got put on the back burner. So I I just took a bit of a break from the live thing after that.
I think everybody can understand that, considering what you lost in that. It sucks that that bloody happened. But hey, never say never, right? Who knows what the future might hold in regards to that? You've got so much work going on at the moment that we simply can't wait to see what comes next. But for now, it should not be forgotten. We're talking the 18th of April, and this new album, this debut full-length album, your debut full-length album, Her Chrysalis, is being released on May 2nd via Mongrel Records. Let's get out first. Let that spread around the world, run on its own two legs, and then see what happens next. Shuggah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was really enjoyable. I enjoyed chatting with you a lot.
Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help us out. You can find us at gbhbl.com and across all social media platforms. And if you really want to give us a bit of extra support, please consider buying us a cup of coffee over on our coffee page. Thank you.